I'm going to shock you guys when I tell you that former ESPN host, now turned independent podcaster Sage Steele, has just revealed that her March 2021 interview with President Biden was heavily scripted. No kidding. Word for word by ESPN executives, and that she apparently was not allowed to deviate whatsoever from that script. Watch.
Here as we get set for a wonderful day in sports. Opening day for America's national pastimes.
This was about 2 months after he took office. That was an interesting experience in its own right because it was so structured, and I was told, you will say every word that we write out. You will not deviate from the script, and go to the word. Like every single question was scripted, gone over dozens of times by many executives, editors and executives. Absolutely. I was on script and was told not to deviate. It was very much, this is what you will ask. This is how you will say it. No follow-ups. No follow-ups. Next. I knew that this was a lot bigger than just the wonderful editors that I worked with. This went up to the fourth floor, as we said, that where all the bosses, the top executives, the decision makers are, the president of our company, the CEO, where they all work.
Now, I think it's obvious to anyone paying attention why ESPN executives needed her to stick to the script when interviewing the dementia patient in chief, seeing as the network decided years ago to just carry water for the Democrats, no matter the cost. Doesn't matter if we hand the country over to a man who should be in a nursing home. Doesn't matter if he can't perform the job at all. Doesn't matter that he has no idea where he's at any given point of the day. Participate in the narrative no matter what. I've never met Joe Biden. I've never interacted with the guy. So I'm going to let Sage describe the experience herself, which she did on a Club Random podcast with Bill Maher last fall.
And he goes, what is this for? And I'm sitting there going, because my mic's on, everybody's listening in the control room.
Wow.
And he's like, who am I talking to?
Oh.
Wait, what's her name? And I was like, oh.
This is like a Naked Gun movie.
Yes, I was going, oh my God. And then he's like, he said, SportsCenter, ESPN. And they told him, he goes, oh, okay. And so I said, what do you say? Hi, Mr. President.
Right.
Nice to meet you. And so I'm trying to just fill time. And he said, I used to play football. And I'm like, yes, I know that. And now I think it was University of Delaware. I believe.
I didn't know that.
Hence, yes. And so he started to tell football stories of his greatness. And I just was, again, I can't see him. You can see the curtain moving.
And that was the theme of the stories, that he was great at football?
At football.
He was the hero in the story?
And then he said,
wow.
he goes, and I had the best hands.
Ooh, the jokes they write themselves. The amount of people participating in this ruse, the idea that Joe Biden is with it at all, is just astronomical, if you think about it. Every single member of the mainstream media going up to the very top, clearly. Every single White House staffer, Secret Service, worst of all, Jill Biden, his kids, his grandkids, not one of them care enough to get him out and stop him from constantly embarrassing himself. And you just have to wonder why that is. Joining me now to discuss this and more, I have Matthew Marsden, BlazeTV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire, along with Jason Buttrill, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, who is just drinking water. I don't know why he... Cheers.
And I get no extraordinaire after mine. I need to work on those.
Chief researcher extraordinaire of the Glenn Beck program, Jason Buttrill in the house. Look, I am glad that Sage Steele is coming forward and saying, like, hey, they heavily scripted every single word and I was not allowed any follow-ups. But it's like, oh my gosh, I'm shocked to hear that ESPN and CNN and all these networks are making these people follow a script for this person who clearly does not know where he is. Oh, is this my shocked face? Wow, I'm shocked. I mean, you have the president himself who's like, I'm told I'm not allowed to, I can't do follow-ups. I'm going to get in trouble, right? That's what he always says. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't stick to the script. So he's even saying it out loud.
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, she seems really annoyed, right? Like, have you noticed I think we probably might hear some more about that as time goes by, because she's certainly frustrated. I mean, she's a legitimate journalist. She's going to be frustrated regardless. I mean, there are some out there, but who is ESPN owned by?
ABC.
Who?
Disney.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's almost as if there are these conglomerates that have a vested interest in the Democratic Party, right? I mean, we keep saying this over and over and over again. That's why you got to subscribe to The Blaze, support conservative media.
I'll go one further on that same line. Dedicated interest in propaganda, pretty much. Because if you're writing the script, you're not allowing the journalist to be a journalist and get information out. You're just spewing propaganda.
Right.
That means all the content that you see from ABC basically is designed in some propaganda way. Disney, that's obvious, the kind of crap that they're doing right now. The amount of links that the journalists, air quotes, are going to cover up for this president is absolutely nuts. Can you imagine the Trump administration, screw that, any GOP administration that had this like list of parameters, like you will only say this, otherwise we're not doing it? How would the media react?
Right.
It would flip out. They might say, our media is under attack, which is what they did last time.
Yes.
And all he did was say fake news. That was reason for them to say they're under attack.
Jason, I can't recall which news outlet, it may have been CNN. He made the decision to remove one journalist from CNN, kept other journalists from CNN, kept them in so that the news outlet was still represented in the room. He kicked one person out, and all you heard from top to bottom coverage all day was how Donald Trump was assaulting free speech by not allowing that one person in, even though the network was still represented. That's what we heard.
Yeah.
All day. On all the cable news networks, the tickers, everything was the assault on the First Amendment by Donald Trump. And now we're sitting here talking about this is all state-sponsored media at this point. The only difference between like a Russia or a China or or North Korea or whatever is that they at least have the balls to say that it's state-sponsored.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that in like a Russia or a China, the journalists are so scared for their own lives that they willingly participate in it. Well, I won't say willingly, they participate in it. So they'll only ask questions that are friendly to the regime, or they'll straight up read information straight from the regime, and then they'll pretend to say that they're actual media and journalists. That's not the case here,
right?
Which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Because they're not compelled to do this. They're just in league on their own
A great point.
choice.
Yeah, well, actually, not particularly true, and I'll tell you why. Not that they're in fright of losing their lives; they're scared of losing their jobs.
Well,
I know all about that, right? So
because of their bosses.
Yeah, because if they stray away from the narrative, you get cancelled, and then once you get cancelled, you can't get any more work. So then you're out. Then you're working at Trader Joe's or whatever, and they know this. They've seen it. Look. We've seen this over and over again. We saw it with January the 6th, where you go out and protest something, you're going to go to jail. Even if you're in the vicinity, they're going to lock you up, and we don't do anything about it. Right? This is what it gets down to at the end of the day. There's no pressure from our side to step up and say, hey, listen, this is unjust, this is wrong, right? So what they do is they use that as a tactic. They'll go, okay, well, this is going to stop anyone speaking in the future. As far as entertainment's concerned, you come out and say something like you might want to vote for Trump. You get hammered by absolutely everybody. You lose your job. Look at Gina. Gina comes out and says something. Gina Carano, she's gone. Every other actor, every other performer looks at that and goes, I don't want to be frozen out. This woman says it comes from the top. We all know it, right? So I understand that people are afraid for their livelihood. So I'm not saying that I disagree with the fact that they're all on board, because a lot of them are. But I think it's coming to a point now where she was clearly pissed off, and she was like, hang on a second, because there are some people out there that actually do care, right? That actually are like, hang on a second, you're interfering with my ability to be a journalist.
So you have me I guess just curious on the Hollywood side at least, because right now it appears like everyone is marching to the same tune in the same direction, and that's radical left. How many people do you think, like in a percentage wise, are just normal people that just want to make movies and content? They don't care about all that radical crap, and they're scared to lose their jobs. Is it 10%, 20% that are being silenced, or do you think it's larger?
No, I think it's more than that. I think it's probably like 5%.
Wow, that's depressing. Wow.
Certainly on the acting side of things, but you're never going to know about it because they don't have an alternative. And this is something that we've been saying for a long time. Same as her. If she gets fired now, she's got nowhere to go, really. I mean, she could come to the Blaze, or she could go to one of the competitors.
Well, she can't. I mean, to your point, just Sage Steele, I believe, settled a lawsuit with ESPN when she claimed that they violated her free speech rights. So she's already departed from ESPN and is now independent. I think she's funded by Bill Maher, which is the only reason why it's like, okay, well, I don't know the arrangement between her and Bill Maher, but what I do know is when you're independent, no one can fire you.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. Let me ask you this. If ever that happened to any of us, would there be somebody coming in on their white horse to save us? And no, conservatives are always left out to dry. And the left, I mean, and Bill Maher does my head in. I mean, every now and then you can see him. He's seeing the truth. He's like, whoa, no, I can't do that. But they back their own, and we don't. We don't do that. So there's no opportunity for more people to come out and say these kind of things. Like you said, she come out, she's had this lawsuit. I didn't know that, by the way, which makes sense. You can see now it makes sense.
That's why she's talking.
Right? She's coming out and talking about it. But in answer to your question, why would any actor come out? They wouldn't, because there's no other place for them to go to. So they shut up and they hunker down. And look, it's frustrating for me because the amounts of money that they're making are giant. But when I came out against the jibby jab jab, right, because I know I can't say it because of YouTube, I had people come and tell me all the time, oh, Matt, actors, like, oh, well done. Because the thing about the medical freedom, that kind of like crossed a few like barriers, right, in that industry. Not one of them came out against it. Not one. Not one. They all went off and carried on making their money. And this is a problem. We're not going to see any of these journalists come out unless we give them an opportunity to go somewhere else.
I have to believe, though, that there are, like, I can't imagine a Jen Psaki or like I can't think of anyone on mainstream media right now who I don't think truly believes that they are in it. They know what they're saying is false, but they're doing it for devious reasons. Like, I can't think of anyone who is on MSNBC, CNN, either of those networks who I think, well, they might just be following along, right, because they're too scared. I genuinely just think they are a lot of bad actors.
I think so.
Like, I don't, when Joy Reid is sitting there lying about, collusion with Rachel Maddow, collusion with Russia, and with Donald Trump and all of this, I'm like, I mean, she knows what she's doing. I don't think for 1 second she's only doing it because she's scared she's going to lose her job.
Right. But I mean, the people you named off, like specifically like MSNBC, I don't fault them as much. You can be a bad actor when you're not stating to be anything otherwise. You know what I mean? Like you know what they stand for. They don't try to hide it.
I think they do. I think if you ask, do you think that both MSNBC and CNN, you'd think that they don't pretend to be unbiased?
CNN's supposed to. MSNBC doesn't.
MSNBC, no.
Yeah. MSNBC is unapologetically leftist. And that's the whole point of MSNBC. That's why they were created. So like,
they present their opinions as facts.
Yeah, because I think they're just more righteous than the rest of us, which is typical liberal anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect liberal network.
Right.
You're righteous about it, and you're trying to destabilize the country because you hate it.
Right.
It's like, it's a perfect network for you. Well, I think it's more, I won't say, it's more evilish, if that's even a word.
I like that word.
I
like it.
TM.
Evil-ish.
For a network like CNN, which CNN used to be, I mean, that's what everyone watched back in the day because it was always just straight up news. That's what you watch. I think a lot of people considered BBC to be the same.
Yeah.
It was just regular. Now, does anybody even in the UK?
Oh, no.
It's far left now, right?
It's all far left.
Under the guise of being just regular news.
Yeah, but nobody really believes it anymore. And I think that...
Because it's state sponsored.
Yeah, Trump like exposed a lot of that, but some people just don't care. Yeah, I don't think there's... I think that there is either right or left. I don't think there's any kind of mainstream news platform, and if there is, it's going to come from the right, because the right is going to want to show opposite opinions, because we believe that we have better ideas than them. And so competing in the marketplace of ideas is what you want to do. Right? You want to show that, you want to expose them. They can't have their narrative challenged at all. They don't want that.